The email came on a Monday morning in early September when I was sitting at my desk drinking my second cup of coffee and trying to wake up enough to face another week at Riverside Marketing Group. My coworker Jennifer Thompson had sent a message to about a dozen of us in the office with the subject line that just said, "Please read need help," and when I opened it I felt my heart sink as I read about her 7-year-old daughter Emma, who had apparently just been diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia and was starting aggressive chemotherapy treatment that week. Jennifer wrote about how devastated she and her husband were, how scared little Emma was about losing her hair and being sick all the time, and how the medical bills were already piling up even with insurance because they were facing years of treatment and multiple hospital stays. She said she hated to ask for help, but they were already struggling financially and did not know how they were going to manage the copays and deductibles and all the other costs that came with childhood cancer treatment, and she was reaching out to see if anyone knew of resources or support groups that might be able to help them. My name is Rachel Morrison and I am 34 years old, and I have worked at Riverside Marketing Group as a senior account manager for 6 years. Jennifer Thompson had joined our company about 3 years ago as a junior copywriter, and while we were not particularly close friends, we had always been friendly and cordial in the office. I knew she had a daughter because she had photos of a cute little girl with brown hair and a bright smile on her desk, and Jennifer would occasionally mention her daughter when we chatted in the break room about weekend plans or family stuff. Reading that email about Emma's leukemia diagnosis absolutely broke my heart, because I could not imagine what Jennifer must be going through as a mother watching her child face something so terrifying and painful. I immediately replied to her email saying how sorry I was and asking if there was anything I could do to help, and several other coworkers replied with similar messages of support and offers to help in whatever way they could. That afternoon I was talking with my work friend Maria in the break room about Jennifer's situation, and Maria mentioned that her cousin had gone through childhood leukemia and her family had been helped tremendously by a fundraiser that friends and family organized to cover medical expenses. She suggested we should organize something similar for Jennifer and Emma, maybe a GoFundMe campaign combined with some kind of office fundraising event to really rally support around our coworker in her time of need. I thought it was a wonderful idea and immediately started thinking about how we could make it happen, because if there was one thing our office was good at, it was coming together to support each other during difficult times. I sent an email to about 20 coworkers proposing that we organize a comprehensive fundraising effort for Jennifer's family, and the response was overwhelming, with people immediately volunteering to help plan events, donate money, spread the word on social media, and do whatever they could to support Jennifer and Emma. Within 2 days we had formed a committee of 6 people including myself and Maria to organize the fundraising campaign, and we set an ambitious goal of raising $50,000 to help cover Jennifer's medical expenses and lost wages, since she would probably need to take significant time off work to care for Emma during treatment. We created a GoFundMe page with a heartfelt description of Emma's diagnosis and the financial burden the family was facing, and we included one of the photos from Jennifer's desk showing Emma smiling and healthy before her diagnosis. The response was immediate and incredible, with coworkers contributing money within hours of us launching the campaign, and then those coworkers sharing the link with their own networks of friends and family who also started contributing. Within the first week we had raised over $15,000, and the momentum just kept building as more and more people learned about Emma's story and wanted to help this little girl fighting leukemia. We also planned a big fundraising event at a local restaurant for the following month, a casual evening gathering where people could come eat and drink and socialize while contributing to the fundraiser through a silent auction, raffle prizes, and direct donations. Local businesses donated gift certificates and merchandise for the auction, and several coworkers volunteered to help organize the entire event down to the smallest detail. Jennifer seemed genuinely overwhelmed by all the support and kept thanking everyone profusely, saying she never expected this kind of generosity and it meant the world to her and her family during such a scary and difficult time. She would update us periodically about how Emma was doing, saying the chemotherapy was making her very sick and weak, but the doctors were optimistic about her prognosis, and she appreciated everyone keeping Emma in their thoughts and prayers. By the time we held the fundraising event in October, we had already raised over $30,000 through the GoFundMe campaign, and the event itself was incredibly well attended, with probably 150 people showing up to support Jennifer and Emma. The evening raised another $12,000 through the auction and direct donations, and by the end of the night we were able to present Jennifer with a check for over $42,000 to help her family through this incredibly difficult time. Jennifer cried as we presented her with the check in front of everyone, giving this emotional speech about how she never knew there were so many good and generous people in the world and how this money would make such a difference for Emma's treatment and recovery. Everyone applauded and hugged her, and I remember feeling so proud of what our office community had accomplished together, feeling like we had genuinely made a meaningful difference in a child's life during her darkest hour. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer continued providing updates about Emma's treatment, saying she was responding well to the chemotherapy but having a really hard time with the side effects and spending a lot of time in the hospital for monitoring and supportive care. She posted occasional updates on the GoFundMe page as well, thanking donors and letting people know how much their support meant to the family, and donations continued trickling in as the campaign got shared more widely on social media. Then in November, something happened that seemed small at the time but planted the first seed of doubt in my mind about Jennifer's story. I was having lunch with a coworker named David who mentioned that his wife was a nurse at Children's Hospital, which was the hospital where Jennifer had told us Emma was receiving her cancer treatment. David said his wife had been keeping an eye out for Emma Thompson in the oncology unit because she wanted to do something nice for her, maybe bring her a toy or book or something to cheer her up during her hospital stays. But David said his wife had checked with the oncology nurses and patient records and there was no patient named Emma Thompson currently being treated there, which seemed odd because Jennifer had specifically mentioned multiple times that Emma was at Children's Hospital receiving her chemotherapy. David said maybe Emma was registered under a different name for privacy reasons, or maybe she was being treated at a different hospital than Jennifer had mentioned, but I felt this little twinge of unease even though I immediately dismissed it as probably just a misunderstanding. A few days later, I casually mentioned to Jennifer that a friend of mine worked at Children's Hospital and offered to help coordinate anything Emma might need during her hospital stays, and Jennifer got this slightly panicked look in her eyes before saying that they had actually switched to a different hospital for treatment because they were not happy with the care at Children's Hospital. She said they were now taking Emma to St. Vincent's Medical Center instead, which was about an hour away but had better pediatric oncology specialists. That explanation made sense on the surface, but something about Jennifer's reaction had seemed off to me, like she was caught off guard by my question and had to come up with an answer quickly. I felt guilty even thinking that way because Jennifer was going through something terrible with her daughter and here I was questioning little details, but I could not shake this nagging feeling that something was not quite right about the whole situation. I decided to do something that felt invasive and wrong but that I justified to myself as just wanting to help Emma more directly. I looked up Jennifer's address in our company directory and decided to drive by her house one Saturday afternoon, planning to drop off some toys and books I had bought for Emma along with a get well card. I thought it would be a nice surprise and would also give me a chance to maybe meet Emma and see how she was really doing, because sometimes hearing details secondhand makes it hard to know what is really going on. When I pulled up to Jennifer's address, it was a small ranch house in a modest neighborhood, and I sat in my car for a few minutes working up the courage to go knock on the door because I was worried about intruding on their privacy during such a difficult time. Finally, I got out with my bag of gifts and walked up to the front door and rang the bell, and after a minute Jennifer answered looking completely shocked to see me standing there. I explained that I was in the neighborhood and wanted to drop off some things for Emma, and Jennifer looked genuinely panicked for a second before saying that Emma was actually at the hospital right now for treatment and her husband was there with her. She said it was so sweet of me to think of Emma, but she was barely home these days because she was spending so much time inpatient, and Jennifer took the bag of gifts and thanked me but very clearly wanted me to leave as quickly as possible. As I walked back to my car, I noticed that there were no signs of a child living in that house. No bike in the yard or toys visible through the windows or any of the normal kid clutter you would expect to see. The house looked neat and quiet and adult, and that nagging feeling of unease grew stronger even though I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid and reading too much into things. That evening I did something I am not proud of but that I felt compelled to do, which was to search for Jennifer Thompson and Emma Thompson on social media to see if I could find any photos or updates about Emma's cancer journey that Jennifer might have posted. I found Jennifer's Facebook profile, which was mostly private, but I could see her profile picture which showed her alone, not with a child, and her cover photo was a generic landscape image. I started looking more carefully at the photo Jennifer had on her desk at work, the one we had used for the GoFundMe campaign showing a little girl with brown hair and a bright smile. Something about the photo started bothering me, like it looked almost too generic or stock photo-like, and on a whim I did a reverse image search on that photo to see if it appeared anywhere else online. What I found made my stomach drop, because that exact photo appeared on multiple websites as a stock image that anyone could purchase and use, labeled as Happy Child Portrait, or similar generic descriptions. The little girl in the photo was not Emma Thompson at all. It was just a random stock photo model that Jennifer had apparently been using to represent her fictional daughter. I sat there staring at my computer screen feeling sick as the implications of what I was seeing started sinking in. The photo was fake. Was Emma fake too? Had Jennifer made up this entire story about her daughter having leukemia in order to scam money from sympathetic coworkers and strangers? I did not want to believe it because it seemed too cruel and calculated, but the evidence was right there in front of me, showing that at minimum Jennifer had been lying about the photo. I spent the rest of the weekend doing more research, looking for any public records or documentation that would prove Emma Thompson existed and was really sick. I searched birth records, school enrollment records, anything I could find that would show a 7-year-old girl named Emma Thompson living at Jennifer's address. I found nothing, no evidence anywhere that Jennifer had a daughter at all, let alone one fighting leukemia. On Monday morning I felt physically ill as I drove to work, knowing I needed to tell someone what I had discovered but terrified of the implications if I was right. I decided to talk to Maria first since she had been my partner in organizing the fundraiser, and when I showed her the stock photo evidence and explained everything I had found, her face went completely pale. She said we needed to talk to HR immediately because if Jennifer had committed fraud and stolen over $40,000 from coworkers and donors, that was a serious crime that the company needed to address. We went to the HR director Linda Chen's office and closed the door, and I explained everything I had discovered, including the stock photo, the lack of any evidence Emma existed, Jennifer's suspicious reactions when I asked questions, and the complete absence of any public records for a child. Linda listened carefully and took notes, and then she said she would need to conduct a confidential investigation before taking any action because these were very serious accusations. She asked Maria and I not to say anything to anyone else in the office yet while she verified the information, and she said she would also be consulting with the company's legal team about how to proceed. Over the next 3 days Linda conducted her investigation, and on Thursday afternoon she called an emergency meeting with the company's senior leadership team and asked Maria and I to join them. Linda explained that she had verified everything I had found and had also uncovered additional evidence that made it clear Jennifer had fabricated the entire story about having a sick daughter in order to fraudulently obtain money from coworkers and donors. Linda had called St. Vincent's Medical Center, the hospital Jennifer claimed Emma was being treated at, and confirmed there was no patient by that name in their system. She had also called the elementary school in Jennifer's district and confirmed they had no student named Emma Thompson enrolled. Most damningly, Linda had found Jennifer's divorce records from 4 years ago which explicitly stated that the marriage had produced no children, meaning Jennifer had never had a daughter at all. The company's CEO made the decision to immediately call the police and report Jennifer for fraud and theft, and 2 detectives came to the office that afternoon to interview Maria and me about the fundraising campaign and everything we knew. They asked if Jennifer was in the office that day and Linda said yes, she was at her desk working and had no idea she was about to be arrested. I watched from across the office as the 2 detectives approached Jennifer's cubicle and identified themselves, and I saw her face go from confused to terrified as they told her she was under arrest for fraud and theft by deception. They handcuffed her right there in the office as coworkers watched in complete shock, and as they led her past my desk toward the elevator she looked at me with this expression that I will never forget, part shame and part defiance, like she was angry at me for ruining her scheme. The news spread through the office within minutes, and everyone was absolutely devastated and furious when they learned that Emma did not exist and that Jennifer had stolen over $40,000 from people who genuinely wanted to help a sick child. Some coworkers started crying, others were furiously angry, and everyone felt violated and betrayed by someone we had worked alongside and trusted for years. The police investigation uncovered that Jennifer had spent the stolen money on personal expenses including paying off credit card debt, buying new furniture and electronics, and taking a vacation to Mexico that she had posted about on a private Instagram account. She had planned the entire scheme carefully, researching childhood leukemia symptoms and treatment protocols so she could speak convincingly about Emma's fictional illness, and she had been prepared to keep the scam going for months or even years as long as people kept donating money. The GoFundMe platform shut down the campaign immediately once they were notified of the fraud, and they worked with law enforcement to try to recover and refund as much of the stolen money as possible. Some donors were able to get refunds directly from GoFundMe's guarantee program, but many people including coworkers who had donated directly at the fundraising event lost their money entirely because Jennifer had already spent most of it. Jennifer was charged with multiple counts of theft by deception and fraud, and she eventually pleaded guilty to avoid a trial and was sentenced to 3 years in prison plus 5 years of probation and an order to pay full restitution of $45,000 to the victims. The judge said during sentencing that she had committed one of the most callous and heartless frauds he had seen, exploiting people's natural compassion for sick children to steal money for her own selfish purposes. The aftermath at our office was painful and difficult, with many people feeling betrayed and angry and questioning whether they could ever trust coworkers again. Several people who had donated significant amounts of money felt particularly violated, and some of them ended up leaving the company because they could not stand working in the same place where they had been scammed so thoroughly. I struggled with intense guilt for months after everything came out, feeling like I should have questioned things sooner or investigated more carefully before organizing such a large fundraising campaign. Maria kept telling me it was not my fault and that Jennifer was the one who had committed the crime, but I could not shake the feeling that I had been complicit in helping her steal from good people who genuinely wanted to help a sick child. The experience taught me some incredibly painful lessons about trust and verification, about how even people you think you know can be capable of terrible deception, and about how important it is to verify information before organizing fundraising campaigns even when the cause seems urgent and sympathetic. I learned that charity and compassion are beautiful impulses, but they need to be balanced with reasonable due diligence, because there are people in the world who will absolutely exploit those impulses for personal gain without any remorse. 3 years later, when Jennifer was released from prison, I heard through mutual contacts that she had moved to a different state and was trying to rebuild her life, but I have no sympathy for her whatsoever. She made a calculated decision to exploit people's compassion for sick children, to steal money from coworkers who trusted her, and to betray the goodwill of an entire community that wanted nothing more than to help a little girl fight cancer. The little girl who never existed, the daughter she invented purely to manipulate emotions and extract money from people who believed they were saving a child's life. That level of cruelty and deception is something I will never understand or forgive, and I hope every day of her life she is haunted by the knowledge of what she did to people who cared about her. How do you verify charity requests before donating? Comment your tips below.